Long before the empires of Egypt or the philosophies of Greece shaped human history, a mysterious civilization rose from the Fertile Crescent of Mesopotamia, the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. This was the domain of the Sumerians, a people so ancient that their emergence predates even the concept of history itself. Flourishing around 4000 BCE, they are credited with many firsts: the first written language, cuneiform, the first cities, the first legal systems, and even the first known schools. Yet despite their acknowledged contributions, there remains an eerie silence surrounding the full depth of Sumerian knowledge. What secrets did they truly possess? Were they merely a highly advanced Bronze Age culture, or did they inherit, or even rediscover, something far more powerful from a lost and forgotten epoch? When we examine the artifacts, tablets, and ruins left behind by the Sumerians, a curious pattern begins to emerge. While mainstream archaeology tends to focus on their agricultural practices or political structures, alternative researchers and independent historians have long pointed out the strange anomalies buried in their mythology and language. Ancient Sumerian texts speak of a time when gods walked among men, not metaphorically but physically, ruling as kings and offering humanity knowledge in return for obedience. These weren't abstract deities or symbolic ideas. The Sumerians provided names, lineages, and specific roles for these beings. Known as the Anunnaki, these gods were said to have come from the heavens in flying vehicles and taught mankind everything from agriculture to astronomy. Their interactions with humanity were so detailed and intimate that some researchers have suggested these weren't gods at all, but rather visitors from another world. But here's where things get even more complicated. The Sumerians didn't just invent myths. Their written language, cuneiform, contains precise astronomical charts, records of planetary movements, and even descriptions of planets unknown to modern science until the invention of telescopes thousands of years later. For instance, Sumerian tablets describe a complete solar system that includes not only all of the visible planets but also Uranus and Neptune, both invisible to the naked eye. How did a civilization that predated the telescope by millennia have such precise astronomical knowledge? Was it passed down from a previous forgotten civilization? Or did they receive it from the beings they called gods? This brings us to the most pressing question. Why has so much of this knowledge remained hidden or ignored by modern academia? Many scholars brush off the more unusual claims as mythological exaggerations or coincidental guesses, but the pattern is too consistent and widespread to be dismissed so easily. It appears the Sumerians knew something profound, about our origins, the nature of the universe, and possibly even the structure of reality itself. But if that's true, then what were we not supposed to know? At the heart of Sumerian civilization was cuneiform, the earliest known system of writing, etched into clay tablets with reed styluses. These weren't just simple records of trade or agriculture. Thousands of tablets contain elaborate myths, king lists stretching back tens of thousands of years, and curious references to beings from the stars. What's particularly intriguing is how some of these writings encode knowledge that appears far ahead of their time. For instance, mathematical records on tablets from ancient Sumer show understanding of geometric principles, square roots, and base 60 systems that still influence our modern timekeeping and astronomy. But perhaps more compelling are the Sumerians' references to the cosmos. In several tablets, they describe planetary alignments and celestial phenomena that modern scholars have only recently confirmed. One tablet even appears to depict a solar system with 12 planetary bodies, including a mysterious planet called Nibiru that allegedly passes through our solar system in a long, elliptical orbit. Mainstream scientists dismiss this as myth, but the precision of the astronomical data raises eyebrows. Is it possible the Sumerians had access to knowledge from an advanced source? Moreover, hidden within these writings are recurring symbols and numerical patterns that resemble encryption. Could they have been using a code? Some modern researchers believe these codes contain references to cycles of time, cosmic events, or even instructions for unlocking deeper knowledge. If so, decoding these patterns could potentially shift our understanding of human history, suggesting that early civilizations may have been more interconnected, with each other or with something beyond, than we ever imagined. The question remains, why would such sophisticated messages be disguised within ancient clay? One of the most debated and mysterious aspects of Sumerian culture is their pantheon of gods, particularly the Anunnaki. These beings were not portrayed as distant spiritual entities but as flesh and blood rulers who governed the land, gave humans knowledge, and enforced divine law. The ancient texts describe them descending from the sky in fiery chariots, establishing cities, assigning human laborers, and even interbreeding with humans. These stories appear repeatedly in Sumerian mythology, but also echo across other ancient civilizations, from the Egyptian Neteru to the Greek Olympians, leading many to speculate, were the Anunnaki actually extraterrestrial visitors? Authors like Zecharia Sitchin famously proposed that the Anunnaki were inhabitants of the hypothetical planet Nibiru, and that their purpose on Earth was to mine gold, a metal they supposedly needed for their atmosphere. To accomplish this, they created humans through genetic engineering, combining their own DNA with that of early hominids. While mainstream science has rejected these ideas as pseudoscience, the Sumerian creation stories do raise eyebrows. Their version of humanity's origin does not speak of evolution or a divine breath. It details a conscious act of genetic manipulation. What makes the Anunnaki even more perplexing is their detailed genealogies, family rivalries, and political structures. These weren't just symbolic characters. They had specific duties, cities, and temples assigned to them. Kings claimed their authority directly from these beings, and many even referred to themselves as their descendants. Could this be mythology mixed with history or something else entirely? If the Anunnaki were real, their existence would imply that our species' evolution was not a random process but part of a calculated intervention. And if that's the case, what was the true purpose behind our creation? Among the most mystifying artifacts of Sumerian civilization is the Sumerian King List, a document that not only catalogs rulers and reigns but also challenges our very understanding of history. This ancient record, inscribed on clay tablets, lists kings who ruled for tens of thousands of years before what we consider recorded history even began. For example, Alulim, the first king of Eridu, is said to have reigned for 28,800 years, followed by others with similarly astronomical lifespans. While modern scholars often interpret these numbers symbolically, others argue that they hint at a lost prehistorical epoch, one where time was perceived differently or lifespans were extended through means we no longer comprehend. What makes the king list even more baffling is its inclusion of a significant event, a great flood that reset the cycle of kingship. This deluge mirrors the biblical story of Noah's Ark and other flood myths found in civilizations around the world. According to the text, kingship was lowered from heaven, passed from city to city, and then interrupted by the flood. Afterward, new kings arose with significantly shorter reigns, suggesting a massive shift in either human biology, divine involvement, or the structure of civilization itself. Could this flood represent a cataclysmic event that wiped out a highly advanced global culture? The king list doesn't read like a myth, it reads like a historical chronology. It names cities, records succession, and maintains a consistent internal logic. Yet, the time frames are so extraordinary that they defy mainstream historical timelines. If we consider even the possibility that some of these records are based on real events, we must entertain a far deeper antiquity for civilization than we've been led to believe. Perhaps what we've dismissed as legend is actually the fragmented memory of a forgotten chapter in human history, one in which beings of great power ruled over an equally great civilization. The scientific achievements of the Sumerians continue to baffle historians and researchers alike. For a civilization that existed over 6,000 years ago, the level of precision in their astronomical and mathematical systems is staggering. They were not merely primitive observers of the night sky, they were advanced record-keepers of celestial cycles, with knowledge that seems to rival, even exceed, what was supposedly possible at their time. The Sumerians not only understood the movements of the moon and sun, but they accurately documented the orbital paths of planets, lunar eclipses, and even equinoxes. What makes this even more astonishing is that they did so without the use of telescopes or modern instruments. Their observations were often so precise that later Babylonian and Greek astronomers built upon Sumerian data as a foundation for their own studies. One of the most intriguing pieces of evidence comes from ancient star charts and cylinder seals that depict not just the 5 visible planets but include Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, planets that should have been invisible to the naked eye and weren't officially discovered until modern times. Even more curious is the depiction of a 12th celestial body, often referred to as Nibiru, a mysterious planet said to have a long elliptical orbit that brings it close to Earth only once every several thousand years. How could the Sumerians have known about these celestial objects? Were they simply speculating, or were they recording what had been passed down to them, either from a lost advanced civilization or the so-called gods they claimed came from the stars? In mathematics, the Sumerians developed a sexagesimal, base 60, number system that is still used today in the measurement of time and angles. They could calculate areas, volumes, and even solve quadratic equations. Their tables of reciprocals and constants rival those of later Greek and Egyptian scholars, suggesting that they possessed an understanding of abstract mathematical concepts well beyond what was once assumed. Was this knowledge simply the product of intellectual curiosity and natural development, or was it gifted to them by a higher intelligence? And if so, why was it hidden in such an ancient past, only to be rediscovered millennia later by modern science? The Sumerians are often regarded as the pioneers of human civilization, and their mythology is an essential part of their legacy. These myths are rich in symbolism, covering themes of creation, divine intervention, and the relationship between humanity and the gods. But what if these stories weren't just fantastical tales passed down for generations? What if some of these myths were actually based on real historical events or memories of ancient encounters with extraterrestrial beings? For example, the Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the oldest known works of literature, is filled with references to gods, immortality, and journeys to other realms. While mainstream scholars often interpret these stories as allegorical, there are alternative theories suggesting that they may contain kernels of truth about human contact with beings far more advanced than the Sumerians themselves. The Sumerian creation story, which describes the birth of gods from the primeval waters and their descent to earth, has parallels in many other ancient cultures. These tales often speak of divine beings descending from the sky, sometimes described as coming in chariots of fire or ships. These are not just metaphors. In some accounts, the gods' vehicles are depicted with intricate detail, suggesting a technological understanding far beyond what should have been available to people living in the 3rd millennium BCE. In addition to these celestial visitors, the Sumerians spoke of giants, beings of incredible strength who were said to have ruled the earth before the gods established their reign. Could these giants have been a race of beings who once lived on earth but were later wiped out by a cataclysmic event? If so, their stories might not just be mythical but could represent the remnants of an ancient race that lived long before the Sumerians. Similarly, the story of the Great Flood, which is found in many ancient traditions including the Sumerian Epic of Gilgamesh, may not just be a divine cleansing but a real event, a massive flood that wiped out civilizations and changed the course of history. The flood is said to have been caused by the gods as a response to humanity's sins, but what if it was actually a global cataclysm triggered by astronomical events or the collapse of an advanced civilization? Ancient flood myths are common across cultures, from the Bible's Noah's Ark to the Hindu story of Manu, and they often involve a divine intervention or warning, suggesting that these stories might be based on a shared, catastrophic event. Could it be that the Sumerians and other ancient peoples preserved these tales because they were witnesses to a lost era, one that existed long before the rise of their own civilization? The Sumerian gods, or the Anunnaki, are central figures in the ancient civilization's mythology, yet they are also shrouded in mystery. These gods were depicted as powerful, immortal beings who possessed vast knowledge and advanced technology far beyond what we associate with the Bronze Age. What sets the Sumerian stories apart from other mythologies is the level of detail in which these gods were described, especially in terms of their interactions with humanity and the technologies they reportedly shared. From the creation of humans to the bestowing of knowledge in fields such as agriculture, metallurgy, and medicine, the Anunnaki seem to have played a pivotal role in the advancement of human civilization. However, some researchers believe that the Sumerian gods' technology was not merely advanced for their time, it may have been of extraterrestrial origin. For example, the gods are frequently described as coming from the heavens in fiery chariots, which many interpret as references to spacecraft. Some tablets even depict the Anunnaki as possessing flying machines that could travel great distances and, in some cases, leave the atmosphere entirely. If the gods were extraterrestrial visitors, it stands to reason that the technologies they shared with the Sumerians would have been far more advanced than anything available at the time. These advanced technologies could explain how the Sumerians were able to make such extraordinary leaps in agriculture, architecture, and science, areas that would otherwise have taken thousands of years to develop without outside assistance. In addition to their technology, the gods are said to have left behind tools that were used by the Sumerians. These tools included devices for measurement, timekeeping, and even methods of extracting minerals from the earth. Some suggest that the Anunnaki taught the Sumerians how to work with metals like gold, silver, and copper, materials that were essential not only for practical use but also for the construction of religious and ceremonial artifacts. The Sumerian temples, which were the centers of their society, often contained vast treasures of gold and intricate artifacts, further suggesting that the Anunnaki may have been the source of these advanced techniques. If we consider the possibility that these gods were not divine entities but highly advanced visitors, it opens up a wealth of possibilities for understanding how ancient civilizations progressed so rapidly. As humanity progressed into subsequent ages, much of the knowledge and wisdom accumulated by ancient civilizations, particularly the Sumerians, was systematically lost or destroyed. One of the most perplexing aspects of history is how advanced societies, those who possessed highly sophisticated knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, and engineering, disappeared or were overshadowed by newer powers. The fall of the Sumerian civilization, followed by the rise of the Akkadian Empire and later Babylon, is often viewed as the beginning of a cultural and intellectual decline. But what if this decline wasn't just natural? What if the destruction of Sumerian knowledge was intentional? Evidence suggests that the Sumerians' advanced technologies, writings, and insights were deliberately suppressed, either by conquering civilizations or by forces with an interest in erasing the past. The destruction of Sumerian knowledge was not merely physical. While many Sumerian tablets were lost to time or destroyed in invasions, it's also believed that much of their knowledge was buried or hidden away, perhaps by the very people who inherited it. Over time, this vast intellectual treasure trove was relegated to myth and legend. The flood story, for instance, is told in both Sumerian and later Babylonian texts, yet the true origins of the story and its deeper meaning remain obscured. Could this be an example of a powerful group selectively preserving certain fragments of Sumerian culture while deliberately erasing the rest to maintain control over knowledge and power? In the modern age, we've witnessed a resurgence of interest in the Sumerians and their possible connection to extraterrestrial influences. Yet, despite all the discoveries in modern scholarship, many of the most compelling aspects of Sumerian culture remain hidden, buried under layers of history and forgotten in time. Some researchers believe that the knowledge the Sumerians possessed could be the key to understanding human origins and even unlocking technological secrets that have been lost to us for millennia. What were the true motives behind the suppression of this knowledge, and what could we learn if we managed to uncover more of the Sumerians' forbidden wisdom? As more tablets and ancient records continue to surface, the possibility that a deeper hidden history is waiting to be uncovered grows stronger. It might just be that the knowledge of the Sumerians holds the answers to questions we haven't yet thought to ask, and the truth of their lost legacy may be far more profound than we ever imagined.